Okay, I wanted to show you that there are going to be 2 copies of the notes. The notes are sort of the content guide for this course. The PDF has more stable graphics because it is essentially one big picture per page, whereas the doc may open squirrely depending on the person's install. But let's take a look at this. Okay, so you can see, I'm looking at it in SharePoint, and you can see that there's already stuff that is weird. And this was last updated in February 2020. In SharePoint, you can update tables of contents, but you cannot create them. So law of sines, law of cosines is in there. This is all, Chapter 7 is all the drop lab. Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 were previously omitted and probably should be if there is a time crunch. The reason for that is that it is more important to get to the engineer scale. And here is how to read blueprints and plats, and you can see that the section on schematics also does need to be added back in for EGR instead of CEG. Let's look at the header and footer. In the footer, if it says note, that is something that the student needs to know, and a tip is something that they should do. It's usually an industry best practice. Items in red are in-class activities, so the instructor needs to look out for those. They're things that are learning activities that have historically been very successful and should be done. Items in teal are links to websites, and items in purple are links to other sections in the document. That is something that I just learned how to do last semester, and so that will probably be more robust as the semesters go on and I have time to update it. And then note the acronym AKA is short for also known as. It has been my experience that foreign students do not know what AKA means, and so that is why that is there. Much of this is taken from the textbook, but it is augmented with information that I have gleaned from other sources. Here's the first example of something that is red. So now we need to go to College Central and activate the account using your student ID number. That's an example. So here, brainstorm a list and then circle the most important ones. Remember, the reason that the instructor needs to use the doc instead of the PDF, you get to the math section, you can see. So this is math, and you can see that here are the answers. These are all things to do in class. And it says, instructor, use this text box to cover the answers to these 3 guided practice problems during class. Then you would need to make sure that this, unfortunately in SharePoint you can't wrap the text, so you will have to download it, but it's supposed to be in front of the text, and so it would cover up the number of significant figures and the answer. And you can see that happens often. So yeah, this is basically the entire course. And you can see that I've got instructor directions for them to give to the students. I've made up some examples on my own. Yeah, so that's that. Now let's go ahead and look at the planning worksheet. And here are, ever since I've been doing it, these are the weekly agendas and attendance. It just says weekly time objectives. This is actually the source for the agendas that are in Blackboard each week. Again, it's opening in SharePoint. So read me first. This explains basic things. This is a more extensive how to use this file, the name of the tab, what's in it, and how it works. So here are all of the activities. And you would put their due date and their point value. But also, if it's an online assignment, it needs to have an attendance percentage value. The reason for that is for SACs, is so that we've got something in the Blackboard shell that shows what, how many minutes every single assignment is supposed to take. So for instance, here is a half hour. So then I might say that that's 50% attendance value. So then what you do is if somebody doesn't turn that in, say student number 3 doesn't turn that in, then you would go ahead and put a 1 there. And everybody else did. So you would say 0 for them. And what happens is at the bottom of this table, actually outside the table so it doesn't get mixed up when you sort rows, it has the number of absences. And so you can see because it was worth 50% of an absence, that student now has half an absence under their belt because of online assignments. And you would either manually put this in or more probably go ahead and use this seated absences tab, put the date, and again, add up the number of, so 1 if they were absent, 0.5 if they were late or left early or were sleeping. And then you would just do a formula that says equals and point it to the sum at the end of this one. In order to make the calculations on this spreadsheet, you really need to do semester time accounting first. So you can see it's already set up. Yellow means input. And then, so now you need to say, okay, if this is EGR 115, so it's 3 tuition credits. That'll factor into how many hours of homework you can give, 5 contact hours per week and 16 weeks per semester. This is a formula, and it basically takes this many minutes minus the break times the number of seated classes. This equals this. The reason it's there is because if you also have a separate lab time or there's a second class that has a different number of minutes, then you would add some columns. Use the number of mandated minutes. This is contact hours times weeks times 60. And then online minutes is this mandated time minus the number of seated minutes. And you can see back in fall of 2019, we were actually meeting for longer than we had to, which explains a lot of things. And here's this total online time for the spring semester, and then fall of 2020, it is all online. So then weekly time, this is where you will figure out if you have the right number of contact minutes on here, on the activities tab. So if you look, there are class minutes and online minutes and home minutes. And so you can see that I've got the historical amount of time that I have spent in class on these various activities for the last 5 years. And so these class and online and home need to add up to that amount of time. And that needs to stay the same. So don't just reduce these arbitrarily. These numbers are here for a reason. There's a good bit of information that went into creating them. I'm going to make a column, expected minutes needed. I'm going to copy this and paste the values. And I'm going to paste the values. So now you know that this is how many minutes they're going to need to do that time management spreadsheet. These are all the activities for the entire semester. The best thing to do, according to here, it says how to best custom sort the time and attendance for activities tab, week, order, due date, activity. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm in the table. Go to custom sort. And I want week, planning order, due date, and then activity. Okay, so now you can see that it is, I can take this entire bit here. I'm going to copy and paste this and put it into that agenda item. And then I just take all the ones for week 1, do the same thing, copy and paste, and now we can see everything that we're doing. Now, this is a lot for 1 week, but it's not, especially if it was 1 class. So you'd have to, make sure that these due dates are appropriate, put things in order. The one thing about using a table as opposed to an Excel list, which is just sort of a regular spreadsheet with nothing special about it, is that in order to move things around, you cannot just cut and paste. You have to insert, let's say we wanted to put A1 before A3, we'd have to insert a row, cut, and then paste. And now you've got this extra row, and you have to go back and delete it. It's more time consuming, but believe me, having it be an official table in Excel makes it worth the effort. If you have any questions, please give me a shout on Teams chat, and I am happy to answer them. Thank you very much.